All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order for July 21st, 2020. We're gonna start off with a roll call. Nate Stacy. Here. President Brendan Adelman. Here. Andy Yale. Not here. Thelma LaVoy. Not here. Cliff Krolik. Not here. Tom Winter. Here. And Richard Sullivan present. So we do have a quorum. Sorry, we do. So we will not be needing an alternate today. We have to start with the minutes. Looks like everybody's still going over them. Let me know when you're done.
I'm all set with the minutes. So.
That's good.
I'm all set.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they are.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, minutes approved. Okay, so looks like we're gonna start with the Moreau application. We're to, again, check it over for completeness. We had it last month, but it was missing the deed. There is one copy of the deed down there, so you can look at that. There's also some paper copies of another deed. Everybody should have that. So what we would need to do is, again, determine if it's complete and then go ahead and schedule, if it is complete, schedule a public hearing or a site walk first and then a public hearing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you need more time to go over the deed.
I'm all set.
So then,
So I give us a minute.
yep.
is this the? These go together, correct? Like this is the transfer of that deed to the house. Is there the original deed to the rear lot?
So we just have one copy of that.
Oh, that is?
Yeah, that should be over there, yeah.
Yeah.
This one?
Good?
Yeah.
So, you guys feel like you've had enough time to check it over? Then I make a motion to accept the application as complete.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, so the application is accepted as complete. We would need to schedule a site walk and a public hearing. I think the site walk, earliest it looks like it could be scheduled for would be the 1st. I don't know if that's right.
August 1st?
Yeah, not that it needs to be, I just don't know if that was the earliest
It
date.
can be the earliest, yeah.
So, does anybody object to a site walk for August 1st, Saturday, August 1st? No? Does anybody want to suggest another date?
I just need to check my schedule.
Yep,
Do you want to do a rain date too? Like-
sure, that would probably be wise. If we settle on the 1st, we'll pick a rain date also. I mean, it can be, somebody's got a better day.
First works for me.
All right, so let's say the 1st, and then the rain date, we could probably schedule for the following Saturday. I think, at least my opinion, would be the public hearing would probably best be done just before the next meeting. Not a special day, unless somebody suggests otherwise.
I don't have my commute anymore, so.
Yeah,
it's a little
so
easier.
I would say the public hearing should be Tuesday, August 18th at 6:30.
6:30 or you want to do 6?
Well, maybe we might need a little more time, 30 minutes. 6 o'clock is fine with me. Anybody else? 6 o'clock.
works. Yeah, I can
6
do this.
o'clock, the 18th. First, site walk, any time requests, you're available on the first, so we would say, what, early 9 AM? 9's good?
Sure.
Andy's not here to monkey wrench that one.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that's, Mr. Nelligan, I just want to know, I noticed you had some objections, and we'll have time to get into that at the public hearing. We'll make sure you have plenty of time to speak to that.
Oh, okay, that was just about the completion of the application.
Right, right. I'm sure there'll be some other things you want to speak to come time for the public hearing, so. Okay, so I think that's done. We'll see you for the site walk on the first. All right, thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda here.
Solar project.
Okay, solar project. Who do we have here representing that? Who's gonna be doing the talking? All of you? All three of you? All right.
Can I get names?
Yep.
No, everybody.
I have hand up, Steve.
Okay, great.
So hello, yeah, so this is the presentation. I figured the best way to just go through it page by page, and
Yep.
I'll just stay on the same page and do it that way.
All right.
The cover sort of briefly shows the outline of the project. Got a couple more maps here. I'll introduce the team in just a second. But is everybody familiar with Scopus Road, about where this is? the
Yeah,
block
everybody on
shop?
the board is.
Okay, great. Quick little agenda. I'm gonna try to get through this fairly quickly, so that you guys can digest this between now and the next meeting. And then we can open it up for questions generally.
Can I just
Same
ask a
part.
question? I
Yep.
don't know anyone's name.
Oh, sorry. About to get there, something.
Take a minute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I'm Rich Jordan.
Rich Gordon.
Yep. I'm with Flycatcher LLC, and I'm supporting the applicant. With me as well, Brett Pingree, Pingree.
And I work for Soltage. We're the solar development company that will ultimately develop and own this. And we hired Rich and his company to help us with the permitting and engineering.
And then on the engineering and brownfield side, it's Tom Daniels, TRC. I think I'll hand it off to Brett quickly if you want to look at that page and do a quick little intro to
Sure.
who Soltage is.
Yeah, so we've spent a fair amount of time up here in Parsons Field. We've worked with the select board, we got this project, on the town meeting, and voted on and approved. I live in Falmouth, Maine. The company I work for, Soltage, has been a solar developer, owner, operator for 14 years. I've been in renewables for 15 or 7, quite a time. Soltage has about 80 projects around the U.S. that it owns and operates. Started out in New Jersey, where the first solar market in the U.S. was, and has the majority of the 80 projects in the New England area. Massachusetts has been an area of focus. We develop and own and operate these projects for the duration. Some solar companies develop and then sell, but we will always be the name that's associated with this project until the time we're not. But 80 projects that we've developed and owned over 14 years, that's kind of our MO. And, you know, I guess the last thing I'll say is, they're mostly, 5 megawatt and smaller projects, which are, you know, 30 acre and smaller size projects. We've done brownfields and landfills. Typically, we try to do green fields, which are just clean, forested or fielded areas. We specialize just in solar. And I said it was the last thing I was gonna say, but this is the last thing I'll say for now. We do like to foster a good relationship with the landowners, the abutters, and the town. We've learned that if there isn't a good relationship or partnership there, especially because we're looking long-term on these projects, you know, that you have to have that partnership in order to make these projects successful. So we spent, like I said in the beginning, we spent a lot of time in Parsonsfield with the select board, making sure that this aligned. So we're here to make sure we educate and meet all the needs and requests and requirements that may come up, and take this like a partnership. So.
Yeah, and I'll back up a little bit on that too, and just to say that I spoke with Jesse Winters, and sort of the purpose of this is a pre-application. There's no ask, there's no decision to be made. I think it's really more, I'm gonna give you information on the project, try to fill in any blanks you have, answer a bunch of questions. Tom here, the engineer, and he's also working with the group that handles the remediation side. So there is a brownfield and a landfill. That's part of the project footprint. So we're working with a bunch of agencies on making sure we do that in the right way. But like I said, I really want to make sure we've addressed any questions you guys have up front, and then also find out if we're on the right path with the permitting route I think we're on. So in this packet, just moving along, there's a couple of project examples of relatively similar size solar projects that Soltage has developed. I think these are all in Mass. One in Connecticut's a rooftop, not really relevant, but there's a rooftop on the bottom. But these give you kind of an idea of how the projects look from the air. You know, again, the rows are lined up east to west and all facing south, just trying to gobble up sun. This particular project, it's a target, they call it nameplate capacity, so based on the number of panels that are going to be installed, it's going to be able to produce 4.2 megawatts, and that's AC. So some of these other project examples are shown in DC power, and then solar generates power in DC, and then it's inverted on site before it's sent out to the grid. So we're looking at 4.2 megawatts AC. The footprint of the actual solar array is between 20 and 25 acres as designed. And again, we're looking at the former industrial box and lumber supply company. A portion of that was considered brownfield, and then when the box shop itself burned down, everything was plowed into the old sand pit, and then that was capped. And the town went through a process called the Volunteer Response Action Program, or the VRAP program, whereby they leverage state and federal funds to clean up a disturbed project site like that. And then the state gets a certificate the town gets a certificate from the state saying, you've done all you can do, we will not come after you, for any future impacts on the site. And with that comes some requirements for monitoring. There's a soil and groundwater management plan. And so that whole process, the town is administering, we're looking at reviewing in context of how we develop this site with minimal impact. The connection for this will connect to the existing CMP roadside distribution line out on the corner of Secocas and Elm Street. That's the actual project interconnection. So it'll likely require an upgrade of the line that's running on Secocas now. Next picture here is just a tiny, hard to read and see version of the overall site plan. We've got some bigger ones, so if we get some questions, we can pull these out. We've got two maps here that Tom made. One is just on a white background, like you see in the handout, and the other is on an aerial photo. That's a little easier to point things out, but a little shift in the arrow we found. Next page. This comes up. We're doing a lot of projects. Maine changed the rules a couple years ago, and a lot of solar projects now being proposed, and now they're economical, they're legal. There's a large push for solar in Maine, and there's a lot of companies looking to develop projects. So we're working on a bunch of projects. I know Tom's working on several. My company's working on several. And this gives some of the numbers that people often ask. How many panels? You know, certainly people have a rooftop. They're used to 12 or 24 panels. This project right now, we're looking at about 13,390 panels. But again, from our standpoint, the most important thing on here is the output size, which is 4.2 megawatts. Let's move it through. I put in some photos. The first photo is of the old box shop when it was operating. This is actually, I took this off the wall in the Board of Selectmen's office. It's hanging in there. It's a framed photo. This is looking, the bottom left-hand corner is the landfill, and then the sand shed, that's now the sand and salt sand shed. That was the old boiler room, and then everything to the left is the old box shop. We've also leased a piece from a private landowner that's forested in this picture, and that's the piece that's just east of the sand shed. And then a couple pictures from looking from the Ossipee River. When we came up to do the environmental site assessment a few weeks ago, brought a kayak up and went out on the river and got some photos to see if there's any views into the project from the river. There's certainly not, there are leaf-on conditions, and we've talked to the Ossipee River Corridor Commission. We'll be meeting with them in August as well. And I know that's going to be big interest to them, is whether or not you can see it from the river. There's a couple photos looking up, and then the last couple photos are just sort of existing site conditions, including the landfill in the last photo. Just talking about what we've done so far, the mapping that's been completed for the project. Again, we'll be going through local permitting and the state process. So we've mapped all the wetlands, water bodies, vernal pools, that sort of thing. We've done a boundary and topography survey. Today, the archaeologists finished up their survey. There were no findings of significance out there from either above ground historic architecture standpoint or a below ground prehistoric artifact standpoint. We've also done an environmental site assessment, phase 1, ESA phase 1, and we've done some studies in the landfill, which Tom can certainly talk more to if you have questions on what we need to do to make sure the landfill can sustain the project. Bunch of outreach to get to where we are. As Brett was saying, we met with the Board of Selectmen last year. We were working through the lease process. If it's not clear, the town owns the old box shop facility, so we lease this property from the town. In order for that to happen, the Board of Selectmen put it on the charter last year's public meeting, and it passed as Article 42. We did do a public information meeting before the final signatures were done. I think some of the planning board members came to that. And then in terms of state outreach, and this is pretty common when we do an Inga-Large project, we talked to the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to see if there's any rare species, any water, fish issues, any deer wintering areas, any bird habitats, things like that. There were no hits from them. We talked to the Natural Areas Program. This program deals with rare plants and communities. No concerns from their side. Again, we talked to the Maine Historic Preservation Commission. We had a study done. They suggested we do a study because of its proximity to the river. So we had a prehistoric archaeology study that conducted no findings there. Certainly we're talking to DEP, reached out to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, see if there's any endangered species, no concerns from them. Again, Ossipee River Corridor Commission, and then sort of the big sort of elephant in the room from a development standpoint is Central Maine Power. It's their lines that we're plugging into. So Soltis has been working with Central Maine Power. They're currently under study to do a full study of the grid to see how much power can be handled safely without reducing reliability of the existing system, and what upgrades this project may require of CMP. So that's underway now. When did that start officially?
Quickly on the spot, 5 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe a little while longer.
Yeah, they're pretty busy. So then I've got a couple lists of just sort of benefits, I think, or attributes of the project, in terms of environmental. This is a really unique site. It's dry, it's flat, it's been developed. It's really good reuse of an otherwise contaminated site that's hard to develop. But it's a solar project, so you get all the benefits of solar. It's clean, reliable energy. A project this size, based on average use, based on what we think it'll produce, to the modeling, should produce enough power to power approximately 10,000 homes. A little less, I guess 10,000 for a 5 megawatt project, but somewhere 9,000 to 10,000 homes power usage. We've been able to site the project completely out of the FEMA floodplain, so it's outside of the floodplain. Doesn't require any filling or clearing in wetlands, or within 75-foot stream buffers. Been able to pull everything back at least 100 feet from the Ospey, and I think even then it's only, I think more like 200 feet now, we're able to slide back a little more, 150, so we're able to get it off the Ospey. Because it's been disturbed, it's been graded, it's been developed, there's no grading necessary, very minimal grading necessary. Should be any views from the river, there's no direct house views. With solar, there's very little impervious surfaces, so we're not super concerned about erosion, sedimentation control, or stormwater control. When we're done, it'll be restored to grassland and meadow, and probably mowed once a year, but possibly twice. Other attributes, again, views, skip through kind of, we talked about some of this. Solar projects make no noise at night, and in the daytime there's a very little bit of hum from the inverters, but there are no homes that will be able to hear these from the project. Should be able to hear it from the property lines or the river. No lighting. It's a really short construction window on a project like this, especially since the site's already cleared and grubbed. You skip that process. So for the most part, there's a small section of trees that will be removed, but the whole thing should take 6 to 9 months from start to finish. It improves and diversifies the town's tax base. It will pay equipment tax, but there's no reliance or extra burdens on the public services. Very little very little traffic during operation. Somebody comes out maybe quarterly just to check in on the site. Everything's monitored by fiber line or cellular data, and so their operation center can operate until if any of the roads go out, if any panels get impacted, we send people out for that. But otherwise, kind of just sits there quietly. And then another benefit of benefit for the town of developing a project on a site like this is right now the town is required to do the monitoring of the landfill, make sure they mow it, make sure they check it for subsidence, make sure they meet the soil management plans. The whole solar array is basically in 3 parts, as you can see in the drawing. The whole array will be enclosed in a fence. It's per National Safety Code. And Soltage will be in charge of maintaining and mowing all of that, so they'll take over that responsibility during the life of the project. They'll monitor the landfill, they'll make sure it meets all the requirements of DEP. So speaking of DEP, the next page talks about what the permit process is like, what we think it's going to be like based on what we know right now. We've been working with this VRAP program for DEP. They're going to be the primary state agency that overviews the project. Because it has a solid waste component, because it's in this VRAP program, they have jurisdiction over the whole project. So we're working with them, and we are prepared to give them the plans and basically make sure that the project meets all the requirements currently on the VRAP, and then they will give us a certificate of compliance that we meet the requirements, and there's no impacts on the project site, on the brownfield side or the landfill. Again, talk to the Software Recording Commission. We'll be meeting with them next month. Possibly September. Doesn't look to be any red flags there. One thing the town did smartly years ago is convert this to light industrial use. So it's even it was translated into software as well that most of this is zoned correctly to allow for industrial use like solar. And then from the local standpoint, it's in the shoreline limited commercial and light industrial office district, as I said. We believe it meets your definition of public utility, and that's allowed in these zones with the site plan review approval. I did speak with Jesse. He semi-confirmed it. He said he was going to look, and if he had any problems, get back to me. He'd get back to me. So, and approval, in terms of a schedule, that a lot of that depends on tonight and the site walk, if you have one, and public hearing, and then what's next. And that's really the quick version of the whole project. What we're looking for again tonight is one sort of preliminary feedback, make sure we answer any questions. Are we on the right path? What do you think a potential schedule looks like for getting through the local process, the site plan review process? And that's about it.
Right. So, anybody have any questions to start with?
I do actually.
Go ahead.
That's right. First off, I do support a project like this. I'm just curious what happens at the end of life of the project, or is you continually maintain, upgrade, and is there protections in that? If something should go horribly wrong, do we end up with?
Sure.
a field of lots of pretty
Yeah,
clothes.
we're talking about snowy here.
Yeah, so a couple things, so it's, the lease with the town is a 20-year lease, but we have, I think it's 4 5-year options to extend. So one scenario is, the project continues to go for the 35 or 40 years. That's one potential scenario. Another scenario is at the end of 20 years, which is the base lease, that it stops performing and we decide to do something else with the land. Another scenario is something goes horribly wrong, like you said, our company falls down, what have you. So in that scenario, what is standard operating procedure for us with every project, and it's normal in the solar industry, is for a decommissioning bond or an escrow to be established with the town of Parsonsfield. Typically, it's a condition of the site plan approval for us to reach an agreement to establish that decommissioning bond or escrow. And it's hard to do that now because we're still haven't finalized the design. But a number and a process is agreed, and typically what happens is that money's set aside, and then if ever something, well, at the end of the life of the project, whenever that may be, there are funds that are securely in place to ensure that it's returned back to its normal state, whether we're here or not.
Yep, you answered, yeah,
Okay.
obviously well thought of, so.
Yeah.
no problem.
I noticed on the project examples, we're looking at Mass and Connecticut. Do you have any other projects in Maine?
No, so good question. Maine, as Rich alluded to slightly, solar's new in Maine, generally speaking. Up until Governor Mills passed a law a year ago in August. It's called LB 1711. Up until that point, solar was capped at 660 kilowatts in size, which is pretty small nominally. So we only had a smattering of small commercial and a fair amount of residential, but it really hadn't been supported in the state for 8 years or so. With the new law, now there's a sudden influx, and you're gonna see and hear about many towns. We have 9 other projects in active development across other towns, which I think.
In Maine, 8
In
other
Maine.
projects in Maine, actually, right?
Yep, yeah, we've got permits on 3 of them, Naples, Standish, Standish, Naples, Leamington, Acton, 4. So, but we haven't built them yet, but those are references if you care to talk to those planning.
You said Standish, Naples, Acton, and
Leamington?
Leamington, thank you, yeah, those are the 4 that we have permits for.
Where's the location in Leamington?
In Leamington, it is off Secocas Road, not the same Secocas Road, just down from the town office. It's on the, I forgot the landowner's name, it's towards the help me out.
This is Blake's property?
Blake's
On
property.
Blake's
Yeah.
land?
Yeah,
Owns half the town, so it's not.
It's where the dairy was.
Okay.
used to be dairy
Yeah,
farm.
Lucas,
Yeah,
Lucas Farm
Yeah,
area.
exactly, yeah. It's been a cornfield for years now.
Yeah,
How big is that one?
almost exactly the same size.
So that's where the machine shop area is located?
Yes, it's that field next to it and behind the machine shop. It's a little bit smaller, just a touch, but about the same size. Yeah, and, I forget the, planning chair's name, but we worked with that town and they, like to your decommissioning question, they had, they had that written out, pretty well and I'd encourage you to talk to them, they had some good it was good, it was a good process, at least from my perspective.
That's a solid point. I mean, so many towns are gonna do it where it's not, there's nothing about solar in the ordinance, you know, so sort of fit it in as a public utility or essential service, but decommissioning is not thought of. In your ordinance, it talks about decommission, or talks about performance bonds for public infrastructure. This is a little different, yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, don't invent the wheel. I mean, a lot of towns have gone through this.
Sorry to interrupt, the Maine Municipal Association, the MMA, they're also have gotten rapidly up to speed with this influx of solar just in the last year. And they've offered, they've got numerous resources for towns too, so,
Yeah, the other one I'll add too is the Southern Maine Planning Development Commission, who helped get the VRAP funds to close the box shop site up. They've been working similarly with a lot of towns, like doing ordinance reviews, sort of helping towns figure out these language questions and where it fits.
that was a long-winded answer to your question. We have a couple projects in Vermont, Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Just Maine and New Hampshire are coming along.
So, big question, I don't know much about solar, but do you anticipate any objections from people? Or is there a reason, you know, I mean, people are pretty involved with things around here. Would there be any reason anybody would object to this that you know of?
Well, you know, so there's a couple ways I can answer that, because there's always people that object to anything, as you guys are well aware.
Change is hard.
Change is hard. You know, at the risk of pulling out all the crazy or all the different things I've heard, you know, some of the
it'll come
common.
out, don't worry about it.
Sorry.
It'll come out, don't worry about it.
Some, you know,
Public hearing.
some of the common ones are, you know, visual, but this one, other than people that drive on that road, they'll have to drive through it essentially. Other than the people that will drive through that, on that road, you know, they'll be driving through an array. But other than that, it won't be seen by anybody else. So visual is one. Glare, people are often concerned about glare, but, and you know, what you'll hear and what you'll find in your research is that glare, these panels are specifically designed to not glare, because that's deflected energy that's utilized for, you know, for charging or converting into electricity. So these are super low glare. There is no glare. They put them on the sides of roads, they put them on the side, next to an airport in Sanford. There's no glare.
How big are each panel, is each panel approximately?
These are a meter by 2 meters.
Meter by 2 meters.
3.5 feet by 69 inches.
And then they're all,
6.9 inches.
and they're stacked up on, you know, they get grouped together on, mounted, or they're mounting panels, panel holders.
Yeah, they're on racks. These ones will be, you know, 2 in portrait, so 25-degree angle, 2 stacked up like that.
You know, what are some other things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing's kind of, noise, Howard's question again. A lot of the, this is why it's a good site. We've been working, we started working with the Board of Selectmen, I think, in May of last year. We just finalized the agreement in November, so we saw this as a good project because it does check a lot of boxes that usually cause some strife. And the other questions are sort of more, sort of how the process and program works. Will this reduce my power costs?
Yeah, right.
That's up to
What
CMP.
do I get out of this? Is the
Right,
question.
right.
The town does benefit pretty significantly.
How so?
The lease that we signed, is, I should have been prepared, I think it's 1,000 an acre, and I think we're gonna use 20 to 25 acres per year. So there's $20,000 to $25,000 that will go to the town per year for at least 20 years or more. There's also, tax revenue on top of that the town collects. We won't be able to calculate that now, but there will be an additional, you know, somewhat similar, number of dollars of tax revenue, and that's unburdened. So that, you know, call it 25 to something a little bit more per year for Noise, there's really no noise. It's got a transformer that's like a transformer you find in a CVS. And it's in the middle of the array, so no one will ever be near it. It's covered in a 7-foot chain link fence, the whole thing, so there's no safety issues there. Reasonably, someone would have to go at great lengths.
Right.
We plant not wild, but we plant grasses and flowers, native stuff. So no pesticides, no insecticides, none of that.
So some of the other towns here, I've worked on a couple projects in Sanford, and their city manager really pushed the ordinance change before the state changed their rules, and he really saw the benefit of this. This allows us to sort of show potential businesses that we work really well on public-private partnership. If they lease land to the solar developer and said, look, we've got this cool solar farm over here, we're hip with it. We can work with industry, and we can be flexible and make sure we benefit us while bringing in more. Whether it's jobs or diverse tax base, income generating projects. I think the other thing too, and it's minor compared to the dollars that Brett was talking about, but last year the DEP did do an inspection and sort of said failed inspection on the landfill. You've got requirements, and so the town had to go out and bring in some loam and try to level off some subsidence areas, and had to mow it, and cut some brush and trees back. That will all be on voltage at this point on. So, again, kind of minor, but a couple of those, the state starts to look more frequently.
And I think we also agreed to cover the cost of the fence around the salt shed, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So we ran into a Board of Select member who also happens to be in a butter and sitting behind me of the project, and we were looking at the salt shed, and through the process of us coming here, that went from being the old boiler to the salt shed.
Yep.
And I know the town's looking at getting some pricing to do fencing. Doing a standalone 900 feet of fence is really expensive. We're doing 7,000 linear feet of fence, so for us to add 500 feet, we're happy to throw that in. Well, it's your money. The contractor says it's fine. But again, economy of scale. I mean, putting that fencing in is a half a day for the contractor that'll be there for a week. So we agreed to do that. Put that into the site plan, so that'll be part of the approval as well.
So, do you guys have any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, I mean, just, obviously this is a pre-app, so, just trying to give you a heads up. I mean, if I'm still sitting at this table when this comes before us, we have elections in a few months. You definitely reference some of these projects and research studies. Obviously, we need to see all that. I mean, I would think, if there's been studies done,
Sure.
not just for, we don't need to see them and, see something, see what was arrived at, what the findings were.
So you'd like to go visit the projects, or?
Well, no, if you said you contacted Fish and Wildlife, any of these impact studies, we gotta see those, obviously.
Absolutely.
And I think you're, really, you guys, the CMP is a big one. I guess from my perspective, Sauk River Corridor Commission is a big one.
Yep. Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. So
that's probably gonna be a pretty big one.
So the way the process works is my company, we're decently funded. But we have to go to banks to get the $6-7 million to build this. And in order for a bank to finance these projects, we have to have all those documents in place. They just won't even come near us if we don't, because, risk. And so we'll have all all those permit approvals, all that documentation. Rich, that's what I hired him to do. He's already started collecting that treasure chest of approvals. So we'll happily share whatever you'd like to see with that. And I was on the call with the Saco River. And, anything can happen. The first meeting was positive, and we will keep you in the absolute loop of, how the next meetings go. I think,
and I'm just saying, I guess, I think that's gonna be a big one, at least for me to, have much of an opinion on anything, is see what they have to say. Because they're, I don't know, I'm just curious what their take will be on it, cause it's quite, it's pretty close,
Yeah,
very close to.
yeah, our engineering team, they flagged that too. You know, electricity and water doesn't really go, but, to counter that, we're
Development.
beyond a 500-year floodplain. The bank is a very steep elevational grading, and, you probably know the site, but, so we're feeling.
Right, but I mean, you can't even dig a hole there without them
Yeah.
blessing it, like.
Yeah, but again,
Can't even put footings in, so.
the town did a good job in working on zoning over the years. I know that they did a future use study at some point and changed the local zoning, but that also translated to Saco River Corridor Commission. It is zoned, general development. Most of it, like 90% of it's general development. There's a piece that's half the landfill that's still in the resource protection, that still technically allowed, but we gotta get a more higher level permitting. And talked to Dalen, who's the executive director, and she said, because it's the landfill, it's clearly a relic, that line is not where it should be. So she thinks they'll be flexible, but again, until I'm on that Zoom call with the 12 members plus the local board members, fingers crossed.
Sure, yeah, I would. They're pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and they haven't, unfortunately, unlike hundreds of towns, they haven't dealt with this yet. They have one project that was in the corridor that was, within 500 feet. I think Grandy Oaks did a small solar project that was in the commission. It didn't require much in terms of permitting, so this is really kind of neat for them. But again, we check a lot of boxes that this is a highly developed, disturbed, and contaminated site that we're going to be, sort of help maintain its current place, get it vegetated, get it stable, get it fenced, get it secure.
Right. That's a big deal.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from you guys to us? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, really more just thinking about schedule and process.
well, Harvey, go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering, where do we stand on the CFD in the list?
Sure, so, back when we last met, good to see you again, we were behind in the study queue. We're now first in the queue, and they started studying the distribution, the impact to the, distribution system 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. I need to check when that study is due. I don't have it off the top of my head, but within a month or two, we should have the results. We do have some concern that we may get ensnared in a broader transmission level study, because there are enough projects flowing in what they're determining as the lakes region. There's a macro impact. We may get pulled into that. It's a project risk. It could, if it'll delay, it could delay the project, but, these are things that we work through with CMP. So, but we're getting to the distribution level is getting studied now. And then we'll learn more about the transmission level impact. So, one step forward,
That answer it for you? All right, so as far as timeline, I think if you were to submit an application for a site plan review before the next meeting, maybe we would go over it at the next meeting and probably have to schedule a site walk out at the site and a public hearing, which would be done, I would say, so if you submitted a site plan review and we saw you on the 18th, we could probably schedule a site walk before the end of August. And then the public hearing would be right around the beginning of September.
Yeah, I think there should be some consideration in scheduling that though, we'll stop at a recorder commission, I mean that,
What do you mean, coordinate with them
Well,
for scheduling?
I'm not gonna vote on anything until that's happened, obviously, I need to know That's information, and what their findings are is something I'm gonna need to see.
Right, well, we wouldn't be voting on anything at a.
Well,
public hearing.
I know, I'm just saying, so as far as timeline goes, just be aware of that, like, I don't think we can like,
Right.
put a bow on anything until that's happened.
No, but I think if we got the application by the next meeting, we could schedule a
Yeah.
site walk and a public hearing, and we could get that much done. And then, yeah, there are some other things you might have to do before we could actually vote on the application.
Yeah, and in some towns, there's conditions, right, where I'm not trying to anticipate Saco River delaying things, but, that could be a conditional element in a worst case, but I think we're.
Right, but with any conditions, we also may place conditions regardless, and that's
Yeah.
generally, that take all the information and data we have to generate any conditions,
Yeah.
and at least that's what I would do
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, perfect, no, that's.
So, yeah, I just wanna make sure that's a reality, that you guys are aware of that, I think that's an important piece of this, right?
Yeah, I think they're like the third Thursday of the month. I can't remember when the board meetings are, which is probably the Thursday after your next meeting.
I think so, but
So,
no,
I
you
think
can
But our
find
next
out.
meeting, we would just vote for completion of application.
Yeah, for the completion of the
Schedule.
application, then what we would do is schedule the site walk and the public hearing, so you would still have time, but, do what you gotta do with the Saco.
Yeah, you and I'll speak to you and I in a tremendous hurry because we've got this CMP thing happening. There's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
They don't work well under pressure, so we're kind of letting that happen. I think what might make sense, this might actually work out well, is if Saco River or some of the people have consternation. Dalen thought there's a potential if we put in a solid application and we describe and make our case, that we could come out of that first meeting with approval. I'll believe when I see it, but cautiously optimistic. If not, I think maybe I would try to combine the site visit.
Right,
Have
sure.
your site visit, invite them up to that, and you guys could all sort of figure this all out at the same place. Unless they give us approval, then we'll just move on to your site visit.
So I would say, I guess that means we'll see you at the next meeting with the site plan review application?
Yeah, how long before the meeting?
It's a 15-day, so I think August 3rd would be the deadline for the meeting scheduled for August 18th. If it came in after that, it would just go to the 3rd Tuesday of September.
Okay.
Probably push to have that in, Rich, just, I don't know, let's talk about it.
I think, yeah, with the studies and the drawings, I think we're 90% of the way there. So now it's just administrative putting together all the points, make sure we meet all the conditions and the STR.
Yep.
Okay, so, I guess that's it, we don't need to vote on anything, we'll see you guys at the next meeting with an application for an SPR.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go over it then. Thank you. Okay, so now we have a site plan review for Henry and Kara Kopek, and they're not here, right?
She's here for them.
Okay, so you're here to represent them. Okay, so let's see here. So we're gonna review this application to see if it's complete. How are you?
Here's the library.
I stopped down to get you, but you went home. Oh, did you skate all the way up here?
Yes,
You take, wait, there's a seat for you right over there.
I'm here. That's what I wanted to be, was here.
I'll take you home, we don't have to skate home.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's all uphill. Going home could all be down.
Yeah, right. Okay.
What do we read? What should I be reading now?
Right now, we're just looking at the site plan review.
I have no glasses. Well, it's a pretty long way to go. Okay.
got one question, Rick. Just, I don't, maybe it's in here, I'm missing it, but, is there any proposed outdoor usage at all? So there's not, any, I mean, this is, are there animals actually gonna be at the facility, or is this more of an administrative, like?
It's kind of like a pet store with a cage, like it would be a welcome pet store, something like that. It's
Okay.
not outdoor.
So no outdoor runs or anything like that?
No, occasionally, we may take one walk or something, maybe, like anybody else, but no.
Okay.
Private sewer?
I don't see the name and address of the abutters, although I see it listed as if it were here. I don't know, am I missing that? Anybody see it?
They didn't submit a butters, I did send letters to Parsonsfield, but I don't have Porter.
On the other side, right?
So they could at least get those.
Yeah, we're gonna need an abutter list here.
If they say we have it, then that's another thing.
Okay, so they'll have that for,
Is this just a pre-application meeting?
no, I think they couldn't, the people who actually submitted the application could not make it. She's there to represent them. We'll probably have to entertain the application at the next meeting, so we're just looking at it and telling them if they're short or what they
Yeah.
need.
Well, I guess, so there's a lot of stuff here that says waived, but we didn't waive
Yeah,
anything.
who did that? Who waived that?
So I mean, I feel like there's.
The applicant waived it? Cause,
I feel like there's still quite a bit missing here.
I didn't help.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
well, stuff like, a surveyor who prepared the plan.
yeah, I don't see a copy of the deed either, but I do see a letter from the owner suggesting he's gonna have an agreement, but I think we would still need a copy of the deed
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, I mean, boundaries,
We always need that.
distances.
So we just need to give them a concise list of what they're gonna need for the, next meeting.
Next sketches,
Well, yeah, but I mean, there needs to be some distances.
bearings and distances of all property lines. I think we should just go through, everything and just
Make sure,
check yes or no if it's here.
or if we want it.
Yeah. That's everyone's cool with that?
All right, so if you wanna go through item by item, we can.
I think, I just think if that way,
Right.
when they're able to come next time, they'll have,
They can have a complete application, yeah.
So, let's
names and
see.
addresses.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, the first thing would be, that we don't have would be, list of the butters.
Yes, all right, so number 2A, we need the list of abutters. B,
I can provide Parsonsfield,
yeah,
if they can just do Porter.
yeah, whatever.
Okay, so just
As
Porter.
long as we have a list, I don't care where it comes from, who it comes from. B, the sketch map showing general location, I see that in there.
Yep.
Yes.
Alright. C, boundaries of all contiguous property under control of the owner. I think so. I mean, maybe they're not clearly defined with, measurements.
Yeah, I would say no.
No? So we'll say boundaries of all contiguous properties, number 2, letter C.
Or I guess just, well, it says none, so there are no contiguous properties.
Right.
I mean, it shows their,
Under the control of the applicant,
Yeah. Right.
so I guess it's not.
Yeah, it might not
Not
be.
applicable.
D. So, D, the copy of the deed,
need
I
that.
think we're gonna need that.
It says option to purchase the property or other documentation to demonstrate right title ownership.
So we do see a letter from the owner, but we're just gonna assume he's the owner? I think we need.
Yeah,
a copy of
there's
the
a copy that shows that they have an intent to lease it, they're gonna sign a lease, but we need to see something that shows that they actually own the
Mr. Richard
property to
Yang
do,
owns
that
it.
they can
I
do
think a
that.
copy of the
Who
deed
is the owner?
attached to his letter, I think would be more
I
than
believe
sufficient.
this woman here is the owner, correct? You own the, do you own the property?
Richard Jane.
We've got a letter from the owner right here, so I think if we just get a copy of the deed and attach it to his letter, it should suffice.
Alright, so that's
Name, registration number, and seal of the land surveyor, not applicable. Bearings and distance of all property lines to be developed, all right, nothing's gonna be developed. So, not applicable. G, location and size of any existing sewer.
But that's under existing conditions though. And then there's the next section of proposed development, so I think we still need bearings and distances, right?
Well, the full sentence says bearings and distances of all property lines of property to be developed. End source of information. Sure, I guess bearings and distances wouldn't hurt, I guess, right? Bearings are great. Distances of what? Just the property line.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, I don't see any, measurements on there.
Yeah, well, it's got a measurement here. And a measurement on the side, it's got a side and back measurement, what appears to be.
So it looks like we're gonna need something for.
I think we need a little more
You know,
detail.
when we were going through the old Walker's building, like we made them have, like distances and borders and everything, and that wasn't technically being developed either as far as new development, but it's, it was still change of use.
Yeah, they should probably at least sketch in the property line distance and.
Yeah, I mean, there's some numbers
setbacks.
on here, I just don't, it's not clear what they refer to. I think it should, that's what we need, some, a little more clarification.
They told me because of the lake which next door years ago was just like that, so we just moved it over. So I thought that's what it is. But if you guys, you need more, just let me know exactly what you need, so.
Yeah, so I'll be writing the letter and sending it out, and it will itemize like each thing. I'll send it out to Quebec.
Yeah, can you do one more, because I'm putting on.
Yeah, and, if I could get your address, your mailing address afterward.
Tell me like I said, order, do I need to come home, order here?
Yeah, I don't think they have them online, so it's just contacting that town hall and asking them,
Butter, living home,
500 feet of the property line.
but the other side is a river, and then.
Yeah,
You're closer than 500 feet to the river, so if you go over the river, I can show you that.
Okay, all right.
Pretty much those properties that are along the river bank, those would be within 500 feet of your property line, of their property line. But, and so, just some of these distances here to buildings and in this sort of, what the actual lot distance is, where it goes, where's the next, like, lot boundary, if there's a line here. Something like that gives us a sense of where everything is, a little more clarity, I think. Is that, I know Lindsay will get a letter, but just, that's an example of some of the stuff.
Also, is that a copy of the deed, or is it property taxes behind, or that's something you need?
The deed, yeah, and you can get that on your county registry of deeds, I believe, the website.
Where on the river is this?
This is the was the Chinese restaurant,
Oh,
this building.
okay, so that's right near me.
Yeah, it's right there next, 2 doors down from Stanley Building.
I know.
are we on G here, the location of, existing sewer and water mains? I don't know if that's applicable there.
There's no sewer mains.
It might be on what's on there. Like
We
those
actually,
buildings
we
share.
actually have a huge sewer system because of Russia. We had that done, it was brand new about 9 years ago because it's not a lot of money.
Okay, so just the location and size of existing sewer and water mains, culverts and drains. So,
Public water.
what's that?
Public water.
Right, okay,
Storage,
so,
we have a utility for now, and it's 3 huge stuff. It's a water farm, so Sacco Canali, I remember when we were down, we had those. But they don't need those anymore, that's for maybe Russia.
H, names and present widths of existing streets. I guess that's just Elm Street there. I think it was,
Federal Road, yeah.
oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Route 25, that's there.
Yeah.
I would say that's okay, I'd say we got that, right? Yeah.
Route 25, the Bridge Road.
I, location, dimensions, and ground floor elevations. I don't know.
Of all existing and proposed.
I don't think that applies.
We've got,
Location and dimension of existing driveways, streets, parking and loading areas.
that's
I
on,
think
that's
Locations is there, but we just need the dimensions.
yeah.
the dimensions.
Yeah, the parts, you know, the parking is shown on there,
Gotcha.
but it doesn't give the dimensions.
All right, so dimensions for that. Intersecting roads or driveways within 200 feet. I don't know.
And then draw something.
Yeah, would Elm Street be within 200 feet? I don't know, maybe it's close.
The
Maybe
only
I
one would be
just,
the one next down, the next one down.
oh yeah, there is the one that goes down to the mill.
That would be it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the only one.
probably within 200 feet.
You're right.
Actually, no, what's it called, that right where the corner of,
Wadley or?
yeah, Wadley is probably
Across the
within
street.
200 feet, yeah. So we just need some more detail on that.
Distance,
Yeah, what's that?
just the distance really.
Oh, you know what, maybe I
We
can see
have,
it.
we have this here, which shows all the intersecting roads.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think it's on this one. I know it is. No, it's got it, yeah, Mill
Yeah.
Street, Wadley Street, it's all there.
So the first map there would cover that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. What are we on, N? Location, front room, dimensions of existing and proposed signs. I think it mentioned them in here. Said that we use the sign. All right. And location and dimension of any existing easement. I don't know, is there an existing easement?
Yeah, we wouldn't know unless it was presented to us, you know. So if there's no easements that you're aware of? Well then,
We'll see that in the deed.
Okay, and then here we go, proposed development activity. Location of all building setbacks. I don't know, maybe we should, I didn't see any setbacks on these, so maybe we should know how far the building is from 25 and from the river. So maybe we need the setbacks on the building.
yeah, I think a lot of that, you know, with a little more detail on this map would probably answer most of those
That
questions.
is the mill, they have a eight on the Mill Street and the mill's right now vacant.
Mm-hmm.
This side is Mill Street, Route 25. And
Right.
this side is the,
Yeah, and what the setback is it's the actual distance that you are from each of those. So we would know how far you are from 25 in feet and how far you might be from the next business, the bakery. So those would be your setbacks from the property line.
bakery is, guessing,
A couple feet, not far, but yeah.
But I
it
mean,
just
that
gets-
could, if that information was added to this map, like what this actual distance is here, what this distance is, and this distance to the next piece of property, if all that stuff's added on here, that's gonna probably answer most of that.
The mills.
Just, we need a lot, yeah, we need a lot of, all the distance details about all the surrounding properties is really what's,
So
I
I just
think,
go
big.
back to our map a little bit, but from the building to the 25 on the street, that's just one parking space.
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
So, I mean, whatever that distance is, that's all we need to know. We need to know what the distance is. Just on the maps, you can pen in what the distance is. I mean, we can assume one car distance is whatever, but. All right, so. P, location, dimension, and ground floor elevations of proposed buildings. I don't think that applies. There's no development. Q, proposed driveways. There's nothing proposed. R, provisions for water supply and wastewater disposal. I think that's already done. There's no, nothing being developed there. R, location and dimension of all, I'm sorry, S, direction and route of proposed surface water draining.
This is unproposed.
Yeah. T, location, front view and dimensions of proposed signs, nothing proposed, it's already there.
Well, it's on that drawing in the
Yeah.
front of the building, shows where the sign can go.
Is it the same with
They're
the
on the building,
lighting?
they're on the building themselves.
Yeah.
It's an awning and then there's like maybe in a window or something.
There will be no landscaping and buffering. W, state applications or permits, that I don't know. for
There is,
them.
they do have
Yeah, an article of incorporation.
incorporation for a nonprofit.
All right, so that's good. X, schedule of construction, there is not one, and Y, all right, so to sum it up, it looks like they needed, let's see, I guess you were keeping
Did you
notes.
say that didn't, that wasn't applicable?
Which one, the last one?
W, demonstration of any state application permits?
They have the, what'd you say?
There, and the thing is, I don't know, I mean, is there
Yeah,
a state license required for a animal
Yeah,
adoption?
I don't know,
imagine
we'll have
that
to
might
find
be.
that out, so we can't say it's missing, because we don't know if they even need one. So in the course of the application, we'll find out if there's some type of license that's needed that they're lacking.
I mean, like I said, there is an already, this article of incorporation.
That's just, I mean, that does.
Yeah, but there could be some type of state permit for
System.
the animal operation, I don't know anything about that.
That's for the business. That's for a corporation.
Right, I'm sure there's something.
Yeah, they did it as part of the license for the truck.
Right.
Well, no, that's just incorporation. You can follow it online in 5 minutes and actually, that doesn't even,
It would be nice.
I think that only shows that it's been received, not that it's actually.
So should we go over what they,
Start down there.
Yep.
I can go ahead and hold it after the meeting's done. 2A, D, E, F, G, J, O, and then W is kind of to be determined.
yeah, we'd have to figure that out. Yeah, that's what I had too. You said E, I don't know if E was in there though, name
I'm
registration.
sorry, not applicable.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. So I expect we'll see this application at the next meeting also. I guess we'll vote on it then, but Lindsay can help you with any questions you have, and we'll make sure that we get that.
Do we need to make a
Well,
vote
I
of
mean,
it being?
do you want to say it's incomplete and then draft the letter?
We could, I mean, if they want to submit it, we could,
Did they give a name to this?
what's that?
Is there a name to this?
Name for the,
I don't know, actually, I didn't see a name.
Yeah, second
Okay, so then we'll, I make a motion to
life, it's in there.
to deny the application for completeness.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Okay, so the application's not complete.
so I'm gonna send a letter, I'll send a letter to you, I can give you your mailing address, you can get me. And then I can go over to all of the, just everything, so if you want to email me, you can give me your, oh, I don't know.
I'm gonna wait.
If you wanna wait, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, so we have a couple of other items on the agenda here. The recreational marijuana draft warrant article. All right, let's see, which one is that?
I can talk to that if you could.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, again, thanks to Lindsay for her incredible help on putting this. What she put together really well and handed out here, there's one version called MMA version, Article 3. And then there's Tom's suggestion, and it's Town of Parsonsfield adult use, but there's Article 3, 4, 5, and 6. The problem with the basic question that I saw from the MMA version, there's actually 4 things that the town can opt in on, 4 separate things, they're not all tied together. So I suggested that we break it up into, it comes into 3 things. One is Article 3 is the store, then there's the cultivation, then there's the manufacturing, and then there's testing. Looking at the towns that have already opted in, it isn't 0 or 1. A lot of the towns did pick, yeah, they want the stores, but they don't want people growing it there. They don't mind having the testing and all that, but they don't want to have the stores there. So I felt again for just to be absolutely complete, to give everyone all 4 choices of what could happen here. It really needed to be 4 separate things, thanks to Lindsay's work on that one. But it makes perfect sense to have it as 4 separate items. So that way, again, if everyone wants one thing, but they don't want the other, it doesn't all go down in flames or up in smoke.
Okay, so,
The only question is the, effective date to put in there.
right.
Yeah, and that's something you guys have to kind of figure out. It's real tricky now because if you vote on this, you have a public hearing, and then you pass it to the select board, I could not tell you when they're gonna decide having a vote. So if it's, effective date July 1st, 2021, maybe we don't have a vote on it until April 2021.
Could we just say something like effective?
We can't,
6
can we do it a
months
certain
from the
timeline
date?
after the vote? Yeah.
Well, that's what I suggested to MMA, and their suggestion in the email was to put a specific date.
That was just a suggestion.
Yeah, right. And the poor one at that, since we literally have no idea what the
Said,
timeline of
I
this
think
is.
the most important thing is to state a specific effective date rather than a timeframe. Because I assume the vote on this article would coincide with the state primary, but that's a suggested timeframe.
Yeah.
He would go with his
So-
thing.
That's all I wrote. I just think
If we
That's
said
because
something-
in their mind, they think this is going, there's a target date for this to happen. It's gonna get voted on by such and such a date. But we don't know that.
Well,
So-
and I think it's more, they're talking from like clarity purpose, so that it's defined very clearly, this effective date. If we say 6 months after the town holds a vote, that puts everything up in the air. Everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pretty unreasonable thing to set a date.
Yeah.
I think there's gotta be a timeline.
As opposed to what,
A
something
timeline
that says
from
maybe
after the
6
vote.
months from the time that it was
Yeah, then
approved or
I think
something.
which is what we were talking about originally. To me, that's what makes sense. It makes zero sense to set a date right now.
What amount of time from the time it's approved would you suggest? A year, 6 months, 3 months? Do we have an idea of what would be reasonable? Because I think what we would be tasked with in the interim is to come up with the actual ordinances.
Right, but
So-
as we've talked about, we don't wanna do that
Yeah.
if it doesn't
Yeah,
pass, cause we did that.
So
and
what do you
that's
think
a
we
lot of
need, 6 months to come up with the ordinances? I mean, I don't want to try to be under the gun and try to get them done in 2 months and not do them right.
time. Yeah, I also don't wanna delay it longer than.
Yeah, do we
At
want to
least
say
6
2 years? No.
No,
So,
I personally think a year is reasonable just for the fact that you're gonna craft the ordinances, but then you're gonna have a public hearing,
Yeah.
and you gotta
Yeah.
pass it to the select board, you have to vote, so
Still gotta vote, yeah, still have to
I
vote the
think a
ordinances.
year.
it's a
Have to have a
process, but
special
just.
vote.
so I wouldn't be opposed to
That
a
makes
1 year. I mean, that, some people might not want to hear that, but we need time to really craft these things. We went through it before. We saw how it can go. So a little bit of time to actually craft them. A year seems like a long time.
But, I mean, it doesn't mean it can't happen sooner.
Right, maybe not, but if we
We
put
would,
the
could the
effective,
effective date be within 1 year after passage,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
once an ordinance has been adopted?
Then,
If we say a year and it's less time, that's better.
yeah,
Then have it be more time, we
Right.
say.
because I guess if you decide these are the ordinances, town has to vote on it, so within that vote could be, and the opt-in will be effective of voting upon the ordinances.
yeah, that gets confusing.
Well, yeah, we kinda, I think you have to have two, you have to have a deadline, drop dead date, or earlier if the town passes and adopts the ordinances.
I
Right?
just don't wanna muddle it up too much before it's
Right.
Right.
Yes, yes.
Right, but the problem is whatever we put down is what we gotta do, so like, we're gonna get ourselves cornered into something that, you
I
know.
mean, one, not to go crazy with wordsmithing, but you can use target, you know, a target date of, you know, target means we're gonna try our best, you know, at least that way there's some latitude rather than saying.
Yeah, I mean, we see how it's worked with the state, right? Their target dates just keep getting kicked down the road. So
But
it is like, you know, do we really have to hold ourselves to a standard the
Yeah,
state can't even hold
exactly.
themselves to?
This, you know, target.
We can hold ourselves to a higher standard if we want.
We can do better.
We can do better.
Standard, but
Right.
if you put a time frame, I don't know, it gives me that, whatever time frame.
Now, this is the medical.
Set a target
piece,
date,
right?
it's just a target, we do our best to meet it.
No, this is not medical, this
Just
is
target.
recreational.
You got a question?
Medical
Yeah,
didn't
so
pass.
the application is.
Because people are
is saying
allowed to
something.
do
I
it.
can get this week, all of them. But are we on the hearing on August 18th, and we want, ready to take the amount, we should hearing.
It would be August 18th would be the next meeting.
Yes, yeah. We only have one a month. So August 18th would be the next meeting for them to submit the application, the
They just, as
application.
long as you get all the information in by August 3rd.
August
You have to submit it by August 3rd for the August 18th meeting.
18th, is that the hearing the last one, or?
That will be when we actually review the application and vote on whether it's complete or not. I think at this point it's not complete, so August 18th, we're gonna entertain the application again, and hopefully it'll be complete then, and we'll vote on it as complete.
So another meeting for, another meeting, is that usually the meeting, or?
Well, if it's an incomplete application, it's, you know, there's no usual. I can't say anything usually does anything, so yeah, I mean, we'll expedite it as best we can, but we do have a process we have to
Yeah,
follow.
I mean, if it's complete, we'll vote it complete and we'll schedule whatever needs to
Yeah,
be scheduled
and
right
if
then and
it's
there. We'll
complete,
schedule a
we can
site walk
schedule,
and
we can
all that.
schedule site walk and whatever we have to do, but we're speculating.
Yeah, this week, I just try to catch time myself,
Mhm.
because I had the same thing, package with Avery a few years ago.
Right,
And it was not required, the obviously one, otherwise,
right.
it was in there, but whenever, so I'm not sure, and in the list, I did ask, it was submitted. They said, why not we have it, so now I need to apply for it. So we didn't have a plan to organize that. And somehow we found another ways, help us, it's something we don't quite understand from the report.
Yeah.
So we did ask.
What I would suggest, I'll give you our email address, so you will be contacting me. I mean, David is the clerk, but he doesn't work directly with the planning board, so if he's gonna say, you know, don't worry about it, it's not on their behalf,
I know,
I'm
but
speaking
we
for
don't
them.
see it, but.
Yeah, so, and I can help, you know, answer questions and, you know, help guide you with how to find things.
What's the objective here? Pick one of these.
No, actually, what we should say is, yes, we should have all four of these.
What kind of a restaurant
Three,
is
four,
she gonna
because
have?
they're dealing with four separate aspects of the,
Oh, it's not.
but
Like
it's, who we put in the date, that's where we're hung up right
People wanna
now.
have
I
half
mean, I
that
would
be
just
like
say, target date,
and the other half.
pick
Yeah,
something,
they try to
target date,
expedite
and pick
that.
something that seems
Oh,
reasonable to us.
Right.
But if we have no idea when this is even gonna be voted on, we can't pick a target date yet. If this goes on the, you know, the November ballot or something, I mean, we could maybe come up with some type of target date then, but we have no idea when this is even gonna go to the town to vote. So if we come up with a target date now, we're just guessing. So I mean, I think what we have to do is we approve the format we want.
Yeah, I think the first thing is decide which format do you wanna go
Yeah.
separate. I mean, and I'm all for both. I like that idea. The problem is, I think we did it last time that way, there were a lot of complaints. People get
Yeah,
confused
yeah, I
and
think-
like, you know,
I think
I don't buy that myself. I'm like, you know, if you read it, you can either read it or you can't. It's
Right.
pretty odd, but
I think
people
what we did
got-
last time was a little more complicated than this too. It was, you know, there was I
It
don't know,
was,
trying
but,
to do too much.
but in our experience, it was very little à la carte voting. It was either yes or no.
Right.
It's either, you know what I mean? So
Right, yeah.
I do like giving people a choice.
Yeah.
But there will be people that complain that it's confusing.
Yeah, let me I can toss around something to put in there for the timing, you know, 6 months after the
I think
vote,
it's just good. We gotta decide like how much time we think we need to do it. My whole thing is this, yeah, I'd love to have all the time in the world,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm trying to think objectively about like the due process rights of anybody, if
Right.
it does pass, you know, to get a business going. you know what I mean, like, it's gotta,
I would guess.
I don't care what the state did, we gotta get it, we gotta get up there to the
Well,
town.
then what do you suggest?
I think 6 months to a year,
Yeah.
but I
That's
think,
a-
I would be
Still,
trying to
it's
get
Big
it done.
difference, though.
That's
Yeah, it's a
pretty
big
wild.
difference.
Well,
That's why, I mean.
It is, but I don't think it
I
should be
say-
more than a year, I think, I
No,
think
the
that's pushing it.
one years I think is plenty of time. I think it would actually release any burden from the board about trying to do it too quick, and I think it's ample time to actually do
The
it.
bottom line is, if we don't get it done, it just goes to whatever the state ordinances
Yeah,
are,
and you
the
can
state
still get
rules.
it done, it's
So-
just whatever, passes after that is grandfathered.
So what would be considered successful here today? If we actually pick a format, or what? I'm
I
not.
think we should pick a format, because that's,
Right.
I think that's, it's basically all in one, or you break it up.
So,
I like broken up version myself, it gives people options.
yeah,
Even though, like, there were so many people who were whining about it last time, it was too confusing.
right.
No, I think we need to separate.
Well, I think it was confusing last time because there was other things added onto it as far as different zoning and it was maybe just too much. This isn't, I wouldn't call this too much. I would say this is actually a little bit cleaner than that.
I think you're gonna see yeses and nos, and that's it.
Well, I think
Well,
that's.
say effective 1 year
From the approval date or something like that.
town vote from the town vote to authorize, is right?
So we're voting on this, it would be 1 year from the date of having the vote.
Yeah, of the
I don't
town.
remember how I worded it in the last one, but Emily was like,
So, Harvey, if we picked one of these and we voted on a format here, what's gonna happen then? This goes to you for scheduling, the select board would schedule a vote
You guys do,
to the recreational marijuana articles. If we choose tonight, we've got two choices in front of us. If we make a vote and we choose one of these, does this now go to the hands of the select board to schedule a vote?
Yep.
Yes,
well, you have a public hearing.
Yeah, okay, so we wouldn't schedule a vote, I'm sorry, we'd probably have to schedule, we didn't schedule any workshops on this, I don't really know if we need to. Well, we did workshops, like nobody ever did workshops years ago,
This
look
is,
where that got
we're
us.
using the basic language here.
Right.
I think the workshop's gonna come in handy when we actually make, if and when we make ordinance.
So if we pick a format tonight, do you feel that we should schedule a public hearing to hear from the public on, present the format to them and then hear from the public? Is that what you think?
I
I
don't,
think it's a bit too soon, I think.
Yeah,
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
right,
So before, and the way it's written in this ordinance is it goes to a public hearing and then to the select board.
right. So that's what we're up against here, we pick a format, schedule a public
Tom's
hearing.
suggestion is the format I'm going with.
Okay, alright, so it looks like
yeah,
that's the
So-
direction.
The original one, when we're talking about a time frame of 1 year, I think I wrote effective 1 year, 365 days from the date at which the town holds a vote.
Yeah, that's what I would say, that's,
a passing vote or
The
whatever.
town,
Concludes voting, concludes the
yeah,
voting.
passes a vote on this article,
yeah,
right? So it's a little more definitive.
right, right. So then maybe, somebody wanna make a motion to accept, Tom's version?
I make a motion to accept Tom's suggestion for the 4 articles crafted for recreational marijuana use.
I second that motion. All those in favor? Alright, motion passes unanimously. Alright, so we know the format we're using. So as far as scheduling a public hearing, any thoughts on that? You know when we advertise a public hearing on marijuana, it's gonna be well attended.
So we need 2 advertisements for this.
Right.
Um,
Odds are it should probably be, I don't know, any suggestions at all? I don't wanna just dictate
Well,
this
we
here.
can't, I think the next meeting is already pretty well booked up. But
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got
yeah.
stuff on that, but we should probably be in as soon as we can, I think,
uh,
whatever that is.
So anytime after August 12th.
Well,
Okay, so, I don't know, do you anticipate that this would take an hour for a public hearing like this? We know how well.
It can't be that involved, because there's really.
Yeah, there's not much
it's
to
not
talk
much-
about.
I think it's mostly more of an awareness thing, like, hey, this is what, because
Yeah,
I mean, everyone's gonna, the problem is, we have a public hearing, when we have the public hearing.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna wanna start talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
next
yeah,
step.
yes,
Okay, they're
right,
gonna start
right,
talking about,
right.
yes, no,
So
what it should be.
if we stick to
you
the
know.
facts and what we're going over, it wouldn't be very long, but if we let it get away from us, like what happens, it could be all night.
It's honestly, I mean, that's it, I think it's really just to make the town aware that this is what's going on, and if somebody, you know, if there's
So-
overwhelming evidence to say maybe we should alter what we've done, then we could, but I mean, this is pretty simple.
So would you guys be opposed to scheduling that public hearing on the same day as the other one in the meeting? You don't think we could squeeze that in? You wanna just block out the whole
I
day?
don't know if I feel like getting beat up that much.
Okay, so somebody make a suggestion for another, hearing.
Are we keeping it in August, so 12?
I think we
Yeah,
should.
after the 12th, so the 13th, 14th, 15th.
I'm fine with doing it later in the week, I don't, you know, that week, I don't care, I'm all about this, you know, let's just get the ball rolling, get it to the next step.
Thursday, be okay, like 17th?
Fine with me.
13th, yeah.
Yeah.
So what, the 13th at 6 PM?
You wanna do 6 or?
You guys got, you want a different time?
6:30?
6 is fine with me.
6 PM the 13th?
Yeah, 6 to midnight.
Yeah. That's the recreational marijuana public hearing.
Adult use.
So I have a question, Lindsay. The election for the town, is that in August? Or September? Is it September? September 11th?
I think so.
Oh,
It's usually around the 11th or 12th. 14th.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know though, but
And you don't know if anybody submitted any papers to run for
The
planning?
deadline hasn't come yet.
Brendan's up.
Yeah.
Run again?
He hasn't submitted those
Deadline
papers
hasn't
yet.
come
You know-
for submission.
We will just, do it right then.
I told him that, but
Yeah, one vote.
let God's will be done, sir. Okay, so was there anything else? Performance standard for medical marijuana caregivers. Again, I don't even know where we are with that. I'm not really sure what to do about that. We tabled it, so at this point, we're just not gonna do, there's nothing going on with that right now.
I mean, do you wanna just take it off the table?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you guys wanna put it back on, just.
No,
let us
I
know.
guess, I guess we would remove it from the table, but we're open anytime the select board makes a move or needs us to, you can just let us know and we'll entertain it again.
Yeah, it really is the selectmen
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
for that.
So, do I have to make a motion to remove something from the table?
You can just for the heck of
better
it,
say
you know.
sorry.
Let's just, forget about it.
Second,
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, I think that's it. Any other business? Any questions from the board? Any questions from anybody? Jeff, you didn't say anything today. Nothing?
No.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, meeting adjourned
And the
at,
next meeting is
8:40. Next meeting is